This is now going to be an exciting opportunity because Tara Harding is very funny and very enjoyable. We like her. She described herself as a working class queer femme poet who founded BENT, the Seattle-based LGBTIQ Writing Institute. Tara is widely accomplished as a performance poet whose work focuses primarily on liberation through the lens of being a sexual assault survivor. She is the recipient of the 2011 Washington Poets Association Burning Word Award, and her new book, Bring Down the Chandeliers, has just been published by Right Bloody Press. And so Tara is coming up right now to share more, and here she is.
Hello, sluts and slut allies. You are amazing from up here. You're fucking amazing. And because I am that much of a diva, I'm going to move this so I have more room to move around. I promise I'll move it back. You with me? Oh, can I move it or no? It doesn't move, does it?
It does, except on my neck.
Okay, move it down just like this. Okay. All right. Forgive me for that moment. All right, so here is how it's going to go down. Number one, I'm going to read a self-righteous piece about being a femme dyke. Okay, because self-righteousness is one of my favorite emotions, as it turns out. Who knew? Next, I'm going to read something about being called a slut. After that, about being an uncommon woman, and then I'm going to end with reclaiming our sexuality. So 4 poems. You got it in you? Sluts and slut allies, all right. Here we go. I am quite familiar as a femme dyke with being baited around my fucking femininity, so here we go, people. This is for every woman who's ever run a razor up her shin and not come out the other side like stupid, like dupe, like responsible for the oppression of women, like not liberated, okay? This is advice to a young femme dyke. Number one, your knees are not the enemy. Showing them does not mean you're stupid. Neither does hairspray or underwires. However, I would suggest reading A Femme's Guide to the Universe for how to fuck safely in fingernails. Number two. Accuse you of trying to act as straight, honey. You look them right in the eye and say, who's stupid now? Because femmes have been carrying the cause longer than you've been spelling women with a Y. Remind them that the last time they were harassed, you put your body, your pumps, your eyelashes, or the O of your mouth between them and danger. I once procured medicine for my butch lover that we could not afford by leaning just a little farther over the emergency room counter. I'd say that's selling myself for the cause. I hereby declare that I have and will put my breasts in front of whoever it takes to keep someone I love alive. Number three, I too tried to drive like a dyke, walk like a dyke, spit like a dyke, and play softball. What I ended up with was the steering technique I call the single-handed race pinky, the ever-seductive swagger swish, the oops I did it again cleavage loogie, and cleats that sit in my closet and are simply impossible to build an outfit around. Number four. Inevitably, someone will suggest that the time you waste in the bathroom could be better spent on curing cancer or the advancement of astrophysics. I suggest reminding them of the time they waste on sorting their recycling, curing tofu, and having to reapply that natural deodorant because, let's face it, it does not work. Whoever sold us that shit looks like a pet rock for dykes, I swear. They took one look at the rainbows flying out of our asses and red suckers right across our faces. Number five. You should know how many safety pins it takes to put on the Michigan Women's Music Festival. The answer is that no one really knows, but guaranteed the femmes will have them. I once saved a camping excursion by repairing an otherwise useless tent with duct tape and barrettes. True story. The reason we carry purses is to save your asses. Anytime you need a tissue, a Tylenol, a Tux, a tiny tool set, or a tampon, who do you ask? A femme. Number six. Do not discount other femmes as dates. Have you looked around? We're tough, we're hot, we're prepared, and we've worked a fuck of a lot on our internalized sexism. We have had to in order to create our unfortunately undervalued but extraordinary selves. Plus, we're great in bed. By the way, two femmes in bed together are not just waiting for a butch to come along. We're plotting. And finally, number seven. When you're asked for the 300th time about whether or not you cultivate hair on any part of your body, you just smile and say that when the revolution does come, you too will be glad to be rid of the compulsory misogynist hegemonic paradigm. But when it comes to it, who shaves and does not shave will have nothing to do with what we put in its place. So let's cut through all this conform to the anti-conformity bullshit without all that misinformed superiority between us. You just might recognize this chip on my shoulder as your own. And that's about all I have to say about that. It ought to clear up a few fucking things. That's all I'm saying, all right? No more femme baiting. Jesus. Okay. So this is something that I wrote in a workshop at Nova High School, where some of the best writers I know are writing. And it's called 5 Names. Okay? You with me? You still with me? Awesome. She says, write down 5 names we've been called that sting. I write down slut, bitch, cunt, gash, whore. Then I cross out the word whore and write wife. Above the word wife, I write dyke. Slut was my name on my mother's tongue from the time I took a phone call from a boy. Maybe it's relevant that her husband, my father, was having his way with me. Bitch. It would be impossible to count how many shoulders it has rolled down to become a fist. Uppercut to my jaw, cunt. My husband called me twice, maybe 3 times, but there are those 4 seconds I can't remember. 4 seconds, too painful to remember, when all I have ever trusted put his unloving hands on me in order to preserve him and maybe myself. My mind has stolen those 4 ticks of the clock in our kitchen. I know he thinks this is a lie. I know he thinks I remember, but I only remember the first time, not the last. Gash is a term a boy in school used about his girlfriend who left him for something more worthy, the calm, dark quiet of her own mind. Eventually, he said it so much that we forgot her name. I'd see her on campus and think, there's the gash. At first, I didn't know what it meant. I thought he was talking about the wound she left on him, or the wound that opened in her absence, that she was a wounder. I don't remember who explained it to me, but when they did, I saw a bloody cunt. After that, I started keeping my legs closed for fear that someone could smell me. Once, a lover told me he liked carrying me home on his fingers, but I tasted blood when I heard this. Whore. No one has ever called me a whore. It has only ever been implied and implied and implied. Even the billboards call out my name as I walk by. Maybe they've met my mother, wife. When he said it, I could feel the bars closing in around my body. When he said it, I would blush with gratitude. When he said it, I could smell my own fear, concentrated on keeping my legs open under him. When he said it, I wanted to sail away with him on a saucer made of our headboard. No, we never had one of those. That's a lie. When he said it, I wanted to wriggle out of the sock I somehow fit in. When he said it, part of me died. Another part of me came alive. They were the same part. I keep that part behind my eyes, behind a periscope, searching the horizon for danger. Even though I threw his ring into the sea, that's a lie. I still have his ring, but my finger is cold and too swollen to receive it. Dyke. Only once. On an escalator in Washington, D.C., like a borrowed shoe, it fit me almost, but I could feel someone else's footprints on the bottom, maybe my mother's, for she had walked that way before. Either way, secondhand is a good way to try on lives to see if they fit, although these days, I am more inclined to walk naked and barefoot into the whore of night, to wear my gash like a prom dress, my dyke like a handle meant to upside down the kettle that was wife, pour out his boiling promises into the cup of bitch. That piping hot ceramic, you can find me on many mornings, cupping my fist around, inhaling the steam, blowing across the top, longing to take a sip that won't burn my tongue. I say now, if your bed is not shaped like a cunt, maybe it ought to be, which is to say, dear mother, perhaps the holiest thing you can ever call me is a slut. And that ought to clear up a few things about that. Oh my God, you're so beautiful. I've got 2 more poems. You want them? All right, so this is for all the uncommon women, which is to say all women. Because the myth of a common woman is just that, a myth. Here it is. And after 9 years of marriage, my husband says to me he wants to be married to a woman he loves less because he thinks he'll be less lonely when she's away. Plus, she's not always out at poetry readings. This is for any woman who's ever been told she's too much. Uncommon woman. You who broke out of the mold before they even cracked it off you. You who came out inventing your own how to scale a wall with only vowels. You who fire flash in the eye of so many midnights. So many men who want to taste your hem, who dream of being desired by an uncommon woman, if only because their dressers are empty of anything but name brand cologne and predictable portrait. Let them call you different. Let them bait the minnows of your heart. Show them your heart is a school of fish, a solar system of all moons. When asked, say, my heart is always causing the mating season. When they call you full of yourself, say yes. Breathe in their scorn and breathe out Atlantis. Let them come with their saw-blade smiles. Let them come with their saw-blade hands. Let them come to see if you slice small enough to replace their handkerchiefs, the ones they'll loan to who they'll call easier girls. Let them choose easier girls. When he tells you he is tossing your broken root out his open window and holds up to the glass the myth of a more common woman, surrender. Gracefully surrender the pretend olive branch of his matrimony, the pretend complete protein he slipped onto your third finger while you stood in shoes that were always too small for you. When he tells you she is easier to handle, live with, attached to, fuck, I want you to remember your neck, the way it ascends space and always has above the rest. You were brought here for so much more than walking 2 by 2 up a ship plank, and anyone common enough to go cower at the depth of his love for you wasn't meant to walk beside you. So go live in the liquid bowl of gold you were handed for a skin. Uncommon woman, let the easier girls pick up the socks. Embrace your splendid singularity and look to the rest of us uncommon women standing in the centers, holding up the tents of our skirts. We call them cities. Love should not have us stoop to fit a portrait. Love should have us elevate our infinity. So, uncommon woman, don't settle for less. Instead, stride towards the ever-shedding horizon. Take her example of renewal and wear your grief like a party dress. Remember, the sun's only lover is not the earth. She's got moons on every planet. I think this event is so fucking important. So important. Slow up. Bringing together our sexualities with anti-sexual assault movement is so important. When I came out as a feminist, you know, the cliche saying a short skirt doesn't invite rape was a saying, but no feminist could be caught dead wearing one, right? And so I'm really glad that that has fucking changed, right? Because I'm not giving up my garter belt. Motherfuckers. Okay, so this one I read at the other end, but I'm not sure you heard me, so I'm going to say it again. I wrote it for our sexualities. I wrote it for us to forgive ourselves. I wrote it for what you're hiding. Come out of hiding. Woo! Let your desires be accepted by your peers. Let them be exonerated. For until you have been drawn and quartered by those on whom you rely for love, then how can you call yourself a man? How can you call yourself a woman if you don't know what it is to be a slit for the taking, for the talking about, to be a crotch with a visible pulse for all that will ever shame us we suckle? It's our first instinct, while also the act for which being human cannot be forgiven, which is to say we cannot be forgiven for taking into our concavities what will nourish us. When I take a pulse inside me, we both feed. Sex is nutrition. Let us forgive the pedophile his body. For if we cannot forgive my father's body for wanting mine, then how can we forgive my wetnesses under his touch? Let us forgive the pedophile's body, if not his touch. Let us forgive my firings of nerve. And for that very firing, let the parade of shameabilities pass without winking at us. Let us claim our fuckability. We all have holes. It's the state of the species. Let us bow to slick the erupting, the engorged. You may not want to hear this. I don't want to hear this, but when my biology knocks on my door, I can for only so long avoid letting the facts in. That again, my body is being a body, my heart is being a heart, my skull is sending signals to my extremities. Sex is a series of unchainings. That which we have tied to our sides, right under "don't touch me there" can lurk. What I most need is for you to touch me there, and I, under a waxy leaf going cocoon going liquid. Did you know that before a wing forms, larvae go entirely liquid? Sometimes I'd rather do anything than take the flight, than pull possibility out of the sheath and cut on my life with the uncrushable instinct for freedom. Sometimes I don't want to be free. I would rather stay in his arms forever than wash up on the ocean belch of my body can't help but push me into the arms of fucking bastard truth. Let us forgive the body. The middle school slut, the porn surfing father, the lesbian, hiding from her husband what she can't live with and can't live without. Let us forgive the lies that protect our loves from the terrible truths that shred our domiciles. Let us forgive the truths told too bluntly around bush after bush. Let us forgive the "I can't wait any longers." The awful, awful thing of what it is to become. To become may just be the most daunting barrel we ever have to point at ourselves. Grotesque, really. We are limbed and weeping and wanting. Let us forgive the reaching and the mothers who judge it because they hate their own reaching arms, enough to cut them off only to pick up and swing at their offspring. Let us extend our arms as something other than contempt for their grotesquely winged to land on. Let us land with wet feet and unfurling antenna on the ghastly liberty of tomorrow, if only to give tomorrow example of accepting ourselves. Let us take terror away from the temples of the adolescents. Take your own unforgivens out of the chamber. Take your father's unforgivens out of the chamber, and let the mothers do nothing but seep sticky for that mess, that slick, that blood and cum and song of what the body wants is the very thing that made us. So how dare we, how dare I call what bellows in my body anything but God?